Hi, in this chapter, I am going to introduce you to the concept of time value of money. Financial decisions, as we have seen earlier, can be investment decisions or financing decisions. But no matter whether they are investment or financing, all financial decisions involve a set of cash flows. Some of the cash flows are going to happen right now as we make the decision, and some cash flows will be expected to happen in the future. Investment decisions involve cash outflows, that is, you spend the money first, followed by cash inflows, that is, you look forward to getting money later in the future. Financing decisions involve cash inflows, followed by cash outflows. Imagine borrowing money from a bank. You would first get some money into your company, and then this would have to be followed by cash outflows in the form of interest payments and repayment of the principal. So, what is time value of money? Now, when cash flows occur at different points in time, they're not directly comparable. It's like apples and oranges. So, if I gave you $100 today and I gave you the option of accepting $100 a year later, you would obviously like to have $100 today. The reason is very simple: money has time value. So, cash flows, cash inflows earlier are more valuable than cash inflows later. All of us like to get our money sooner rather than later. Likewise, cash outflows later are better than cash outflows earlier. So if you had to pay me, you would rather pay me later than earlier. So this is the idea that is at the core of time value of money. So in order to apply this time value concept in decision making, we make use of either compounding or discounting. Compounding is the process of finding the future value of cash flows. So if I gave you $100 today and I asked you how much is this worth 5 years later, you would have to go through a process of compounding. Discounting is the process of finding the present value of cash flows. So it's like saying, I plan to give you $100 5 years later. How much is it worth right now for you? So for a given set of cash flows, whether you're making an investment decision or a financing decision, the decision would be the same whether you do discounting or compounding. This is an important insight. So for a given set of cash flows, you need not do both discounting and compounding. If you did one of the two, you would make the right decision. I recommend discounting because that is more intuitively easy to understand. So discounting requires a discount rate. Likewise, compounding requires a compound rate. So what is this rate? It has many names. Sometimes it's called the opportunity cost of money. Sometimes it's called the cost of capital. But broadly, the rate is called a discount rate or a compound rate depending on what you're doing, whether you're discounting or compounding. The effective rate should be distinguished from a nominal rate. For example, if the nominal rate says 10% per year, but the interest payments, for example, if they are semi-annual, then the effective rate could be higher than the 10% nominal rate. So effective rate depends on the frequency of discounting or compounding. So what is the big picture? I think it's easy to understand this big picture, by considering an example. Suppose you are evaluating an investment opportunity which has an initial investment of $1,000 and you expect cash flows for 5 years into the future. What you would have to do is to start by drawing a timeline for these cash flows. So you would have to put time in one row, and just below that you would have to put the amounts involved. In time zero, and this is very important to understand, the decision making point in finance is always time zero. You have a cash outflow of $1,000. In finance, all outflows are preceded by a negative sign. This will be followed by cash inflows in years 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and the amount for each of these years is specified in the timeline. The nominal cash flows cannot be added up to make a decision. So you could not just add up 90 and 120 with 200, 400, and 2000 and say this looks like a good decision. So what you need to do is to discount the cash flows that happen in the future, that is from time 1 to 5, and compare that with the investment that you are making in time 0. This is how you actually apply time value of money in practice.